Welcome to Tech News Briefing. It's Thursday, August 3rd. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Wonder and worry. That's how a senior White House advisor described President Biden's reaction to seeing generative artificial intelligence tools being put to use. Aides showed him a fake image of himself and used ChatGPT to explain an obscure Supreme Court case. These closed-door sessions were among many that have taken place as the Biden administration prepares to impose a broad new set of guardrails around the technology. Sabrina Siddiqui is a White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal and is with us to discuss how the Biden administration is approaching this. Sabrina, the president wants to set up rules around AI. How is his administration going about that?
Right now, they are very much in the process of figuring out what a federal strategy toward artificial intelligence technology will look like. And the main challenge for the Biden administration is that it's all encompassing, right? I mean, there are implications for foreign policy and national security. There is obviously the potential impact on the workforce and jobs displacement. There's election misinformation, which is already a problem. But then there are also a lot of benefits to AI and its capabilities in cancer research and detection, in mitigating climate change, and educational benefits. So it's really right now just trying to take in both the possibilities and the perils and meet with stakeholders. So the president has had meetings with civil leaders, with tech CEOs from the leading AI companies themselves, and asked his cabinet really to come up with some proposals that they're going to look at in the fall as they try and figure out how the strategy is going to take shape.
How big a deal is this to the president?
What's been interesting about this is that the White House said this isn't just an issue that came along. When I spoke to the president's deputy chief of staff, Bruce Reed, he said that President Biden sees AI as an existential challenge. And what I've been hearing from sources is that it's actually President Biden who has been really pushing his administration to do more and to get out ahead of this issue before the technology evolves to the point where it becomes that much harder to put up some kind of guardrails. And some of this is lessons learned from the failure to regulate social media companies where Washington was too slow to act. The big question, though, is going to be, there's a lot of focus on it in his conversations with his aides within the administration. What can he actually do about it? How much power will he actually have to move the needle?
Yeah, let's talk about that a bit. How do they plan to go about putting any guardrails in place? And do they plan to involve Congress?
So right now, it's a little bit of both. The White House, based on my conversations with some officials there, say that they are mindful of the fact that the president is limited in his authority to act unilaterally. He's not going to be able to implement sweeping restrictions on AI companies using the power of the presidency. Those would probably be challenged in courts. And what we've seen in the past is that courts typically side with the private sector, right? They don't like the government infringing on business decisions, but they are looking at an executive order in the White House that would, right now it's vague, would aim to protect workers and consumers and address some cybersecurity risks. That's all they're willing to say. What the White House could do is put in place some rules around the use of AI for federal agencies and federal contractors. It could be sort of in some ways a blueprint for how the private sector should think about it. And then, of course, they want Congress to act. There's been a lot of consensus in Congress that there should be more regulation toward big tech and towards social media companies. And certainly there's growing consensus that something should be done about AI before it's too late. But Congress is also gridlocked, and in a run up to an election year, it's really hard to see them passing any major legislation.
How are the companies that make these generative AI tools reacting to the White House's efforts?
Right now, we've seen that these companies are engaging with the administration. So President Biden hosted the CEOs of 4 of the major generative AI tech companies at the White House in May. And then we had 7 leading AI companies voluntarily agree to some guardrails. But the biggest piece here is that so far, anything that has been asked of tech companies with respect to more security checks and more research around AI and developing a watermarking system, for example, to help people spot what is AI generated content. Right now, it is voluntary. There are no enforcement measures or penalties really that would be imposed on these companies for not meeting the moment or not being up to the task. So what that does right now is put these tech companies in a position where they're kind of just doing what they were already doing. A lot of them are already running these security checks. They say that they're open to regulation. Tech companies have said that about social media too. When the government tends to propose regulation, then you see them fight it tooth and nail and try to water it down. So we don't really know how this is going to shake out until there's an actual proposal on the table.
Has there been opposition to the White House saying we need to have guardrails or considering how it might put those in place?
Not yet. When you look at what some of these tech executives are saying, they're actually kind of out the gate with their own warnings about the risks of AI, right? I mean, you had tech executives and artificial intelligence scientists issue a joint statement in May warning that AI poses an extinction risk that was as great as pandemics and nuclear war. They're doing it, though, because they also want to have a hand in shaping any regulations. So at the same time that they're issuing these warnings, they are also lobbying lawmakers behind the scenes, as they often do.
All right, that was our White House reporter, Sabrina Siddiqui. That's it for today's tech news briefing. If you want more tech stories, check out our website, WSJ.com. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.